So, what if the apps you use every single day weren't controlled by some giant tech company? What if your data was actually truly yours? Well, that's the whole promise behind a new kind of internet being built on Ethereum. Today, we're going to dive deep into the heart of this revolution, decentralized applications, or as you'll hear them called, dApps. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into the basics. What in the world is a dApp? Then we're going to jump into the biggest use case so far, decentralized finance. You'll hear it called DeFi. After that, we'll check out how this stuff is changing what it means to own something online with NFTs, and even how it's creating totally new kinds of companies. And finally, we'll zoom out and look at the big picture. Let's do it. All right, let's start right at the beginning. To really get a handle on this new ecosystem, you first have to understand its most basic building block, the decentralized app, or dApp. This table really shows the fundamental shift. I mean, think about the apps on your phone right now. They all run on a central server owned by a single company, right? They make the rules and they own your data. dApps just work differently. They run on a peer-to-peer network and the rules are enforced by something called smart contracts. Now, don't let the name scare you. It's basically just an agreement written in code that runs automatically when certain things happen. The bottom line, no single company is in charge and you are always in control of your own stuff. And this new structure has some huge advantages. With no single point of failure, dApps are incredibly resistant to censorship. No government or company can just decide to shut one down. They're basically always online. And maybe the most important part for you, the user, is that you interact with them using your own personal crypto wallet. This means you, and only you, own and control your digital money and assets. Now, while you can build a dApp for pretty much anything, the area where they've made the biggest splash so far is, without a doubt, the world of finance. And that brings us to this huge concept called DeFi. At its core, DeFi is a really bold experiment. The goal is to build a global, open financial system completely from scratch. The whole idea is to do everything our current system does, lending, borrowing, trading, but to do it all out in the open on the blockchain, cutting out the traditional middlemen, like banks.
Okay, that sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like when you use it? To really understand DeFi, we need to see how some of these top applications actually work.
So let's start with Uniswap, which is a decentralized exchange. Instead of a bank or a stock exchange matching buyers and sellers, Uniswap uses what's called a liquidity pool. Just picture a big pot with two different crypto tokens in it. Anybody can add their tokens to this pot, and when they do, they become a liquidity provider. In return for that, they get a little piece of the fees from every single trade that uses that pool. This whole setup lets anyone, anywhere in the world, trade tokens 24/7 with no central company taking a cut. Next up, we have something like Aave, which is a decentralized money market. You can think of this as just a big community pool of funds. On one side, you have lenders. They can add their crypto to the pool and immediately start earning interest on it. On the other side, you've got borrowers. They can take a loan from that very same pool, but first they have to put up some of their own crypto as collateral. It's a really cool system where anyone can be the bank or anyone can be the customer. So, the obvious question is, how does a system like this stay safe? How does Aave make sure that people actually pay back their loans? The answer is this key idea, over-collateralization. It sounds complicated, but it just means that if you want to borrow, say, $100 worth of crypto, you first have to lock up collateral that's worth a lot more than that, maybe $150. That extra value acts as a safety buffer for all the lenders in case the price of your collateral suddenly drops. This whole world of DeFi brings up another fascinating puzzle. In the normal world, central banks work to keep currencies stable. So how on earth do you create a crypto token that stays stable, one that's always worth $1 without any central authority pulling the strings?
Well, this is exactly the problem that a stablecoin called DAI was built to solve. It's a really clever, self-regulating system. Here's how it works. You take a volatile asset like Ether and you lock it into a smart contract, which they call a maker vault. Then, against that collateral, you can create or mint new DAI tokens, which are designed to always be worth $1. Now, to get your original Ether back, you just pay back the DAI loan plus a tiny fee. That DAI you paid back is then burned or destroyed, which helps keep the total supply in check and maintains that stable $1 value. Pretty neat, right?
Okay, we've seen how dApps are rebuilding finance, but their potential goes way, way further. So let's completely switch gears now and look at how they're changing the entire idea of ownership in the digital world, all thanks to NFTs. So what on earth does non-fungible even mean? It's actually way simpler than it sounds. A fungible asset is interchangeable. Think of a dollar bill or a single Ether token. One is exactly the same as any other.
A non-fungible asset, or an NFT, is unique. It's a one-of-a-kind token that acts like a digital certificate of ownership that's verifiable by anyone for one specific unique item. And the market for these unique digital items just exploded. To give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, just look at this number, $69.3 million. That was the price paid at a Christie's auction for a single piece of NFT artwork by the artist Beeple. It was a moment that showed the entire world that verifiable digital ownership had serious value. But here's the thing, NFTs are so much more than just digital art. This technology can be used to prove ownership of almost anything unique. Think about it, the items you own inside a video game, a plot of virtual land in the metaverse, or even your own digital identity. The possibilities are truly massive, and people are even looking into tokenizing real-world assets, like real estate. Okay, for our final big category, let's look at what might be the most radical idea of them all, using this technology to completely reinvent how humans organize and work together. And this brings us to the DAO. A DAO, or a decentralized autonomous organization, is basically an organization that runs on code. All of its rules, its treasury, its operations, it's all written into smart contracts that live on the blockchain. So instead of being run by a CEO or a board of directors, it's governed by its members, who get to vote on every decision using special tokens. You can really see the difference side by side here. A traditional company is a pyramid, right? It's hierarchical, and change often happens from the top down. A DAO is much more like a flat network. Every member with a governance token gets a direct say in decisions. And because all the rules are just code, when a vote passes, the outcome is often carried out automatically by a smart contract. It's a wild experiment in rethinking how we collaborate. So, we've covered decentralized apps, we've talked DeFi, digital ownership with NFTs, and these new code-based organizations, DAOs. Let's just zoom out for a second and ask, what does all this really add up to? When you really put all these pieces together, applications that can't be shut down, financial services that are open to literally everyone, true digital ownership, and organizations governed by their communities, you can't help but ask, are we witnessing the very beginning of a new kind of internet? One that isn't built and owned by a handful of giant corporations, but is instead built and owned by its users, for its users? And that is a very powerful thought to leave you with.